it going, YouTube? My name is Ray from Asian Filmist, and I'm just a guy who loves movies. Now, coming soon here to the theaters in Japan is a new film by director Shinkai Makoto. The name of the movie is called Your Name, and you can expect us to watch it and give you a review when the time comes. So, in anticipation for the release of Your Name, I've decided to go back and watch some of Shinkai Makoto's earlier films, and one of those films I want to talk about with you today. The film I'm going to talk about today is called 5 centimeters per second, and it came back in 2007, and even though the film is 8 years old, it's definitely a film that holds up even to today's standards. Now, Shinkai Makoto, he did a lot of things in this film. He was the director, he was the writer, the producer, he did the storyboards, he was the art director, the color design. Shinkai, he's a jack of all trades. And as with any Shinkai Makoto film you watch, you can always expect to be pleased with the visual aesthetic that his films bring to you. And 5 centimeters per second is no exception. Now, 5 centimeters per second takes place over the course of 3 episodes, and the runtime for each of the episodes is quite short. If you combine everything together, everything equals out to be about 1 hour. Now, each of the 3 episodes take place in a different time period in our main characters' lives. So we have 3 characters that the narrative focuses upon. We have the main boy, whose name is Takaki, you have the main girl, who is Akari, and then you have Kanai, who appears just for 1 episode in episode 2. Now, Takaki, he's the prime central character. We see most of the story being told from his eyes. Episode 1 takes place during the character's time in junior high school. Now, the story goes, Takaki and Akari were best friends in elementary school, but then Akari suddenly has to move to Tochigi, basically leaving Takaki on his own. They still keep in contact with each other, sending letters back and forth, but then suddenly Takaki learns he has to move to Kagoshima, which is in the other side of the country. So Takaki and Akari, they decide to meet for one last time before it becomes impossible to meet via just a simple train ride. In episode 2, it takes place during Takaki's time in high school. He's already in Kagoshima, but the story is mainly told through the eyes of Kanae, who's this girl that has a crush on Takaki. And the central story for episode 2 is Kanae basically mustering her courage so that way she can confess her feelings to Takaki. Episode 3 happens during the character's adulthood and centers on Takaki. He's miserable with his life now, and he reflects back on his childhood, and basically he's miserable with his life because he just can't forget his first love. Now, the premise of 5 centimeters per second, admittedly I thought it was something I would have enjoyed more as a teen or a young adult. But watching it now, I still enjoyed it rather much. So now let's talk about the things I enjoyed about the story, which was, to sum it up, everything. At its essence, 5 centimeters per second, it's a romantic story, especially for the hopeless romantic. And it doesn't try to sugarcoat anything, it doesn't try to make it cute and fluffy. It focuses more on the bittersweet side of things, especially on the kind of romantic feelings we would have as a youth, and just looking back and just remembering how it was back then. And one thing it does really well, it really hits home with that kind of nostalgia. The central themes of this movie are about the bittersweet memories of youth, and also the kind of regret you get when you remember, you should have said this, but you didn't, but you want to say even till today. And it hits all these themes without being too melodramatic, too overly dramatic, and does it with the right kind of storytelling that only Shinkai Makoto can tell. Another thing I really enjoyed is how likable the characters are. One thing that really annoys me, in my old age, is whenever I watch a romantic movie, I really hate the characters that just complain. Like, oh, woe is me, oh, does she like me? I don't know. But Takaki isn't that kind of character. He's actually a really likable dude. And even though the time you spent learning these characters, you see the growth and the path that they go through, and the characters really do a good job of just taking you in. But the one thing that will take you in the most are the beautiful visuals that this film presents to you. Like, everything was so detailed, everything was absolutely stunning. Like, there's a scene when Takaki goes through Shinjuku Station, and if you've ever been inside Shinjuku Station, the way the film captures it, it's pretty accurate. And one thing I liked about the beautiful scenes is that nothing was wasted. Like, almost literally, you can take each and every frame of this movie and rebrand it as a painting. And it didn't hurt that every one of those scenes were dynamic. Like, whether it's through the use of wide angle shots, the camera placement, and the way it looks up at the horizon, or even just diagonal lines, every minute of the film, your eyes are never bored. And because there were no wasted scenes, everything felt important and everything just felt connected well together. And on top of that is the beautiful use of light. For a kind of funny comparison, every J.J. Abrams Abrams films always gets flack on its use of lens flare, yeah? Well, the use of light is kind of similar in 5 centimeters per second, but it's not to the point where it's jarring and distracting for your eyes. It actually creates this warm glow that sets the atmosphere perfectly. The light was utilized perfectly, and it created not only that warm glow, but also made every scene seem so vivid. Now, enhancing each of the beautiful shots was the wonderful soundtrack. Now, the soundtrack was perfect in the sense that it complemented this romantic story with beautiful piano scores, and even the theme song was quite nice. And it was strong enough to really make this film into a tearjerker, you know, if you're the kind of guy who cries easily in these kinds of movies. But yeah, you know, it didn't get me. It didn't make me cry. No, it didn't. Maybe a little. You know, honestly, 5 centimeters per second, it's one of those few films where I can honestly say I had a perfect viewing experience. You know, honestly for me, there was no part that I didn't enjoy. But you know, I still gotta talk about bad things about movies, right? But the bad things I'm going to list, you know, I don't necessarily think they're bad for me, but I can see other people having problems with them. So, you know, let's go dive right into that. First of all, the pacing of this film was very slow. You know, honestly, the slow pacing is necessary for this story. It really set the atmosphere and really set the tension of the film. But you know, I can see other people getting bored with how slow the pacing is. For example, a lot of episode 1 centers on Takaki just waiting through train ride after train ride as his trains are slowly delayed because of a snowstorm. So I can see a lot of people just struggling to make it through this period of waiting. But trust me, after the waiting is done, it pays off really well. Another thing that some people might have a problem with is that the film never really showcases moments of high emotion. Like the way the characters speak and the way the characters interact with each other, it's always done very calmly, very stoic. Like there's no really moment of dramatic tension in the character's emotions. So for a lot of people who are looking for that kind of romantic story, they might be turned off a little bit. But you know, honestly for me, that kind of decision to make the characters speak like that, it really enhanced the story in my opinion. The film knew what kind of story it wanted to tell, and it knew the characters it wanted to feature in it. And if you can get past the slow pacing and the somewhat dry characters, you'll have a wonderful viewing experience. And so the bottom line of 5 centimeters per second is that it's a film that hits home for the hopeless romantic. The film executes it perfectly on its portrayal of its central themes, from unrequited love, bittersweet memories of one's youth, and especially memories of your first love or the one who got away. You know, 5 centimeters per second, I recommend it for fans of anime who want to see really exquisite art, who want to witness a story that's both as heartwarming as it is heartbreaking, and do so while listening to a really captivating soundtrack. But you know, those are my thoughts on 5 centimeters per second. What do you guys think? Whatever your thoughts are, leave a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to Asian Filmist for more reviews and discussions of Asian films. You can also chat with us on our Facebook and Twitter pages, and don't forget to subscribe to our email newsletter so you can receive a free copy of our ebook, The 108 Asian Films for New Fans to Watch. Once again, my name is Ray, and you can find me on Twitter. You should be able to see my handle right here. And that's about it, everyone. Alright guys, I'm about to watch another movie. I'll be back soon. Promise.